redemption is my goal for 2024. What is the hunt for redemption? This is going to be a mini-series documenting my 2024 deer hunting season. I'm going to take you with me from start to finish, from gear to prep to hunts, some scouting. Everything I'm doing is going to be documented. My successes, hopefully. My failures, definitely. And I'm sure there's going to be some misadventures along the way. Why is there a need for redemption? First, let me backtrack to 2023, last season. Last season, I got drawn for a piece of public land. My hunt started on November 1st. I'd had several pictures of good bucks showing up from my scouting trips. I'd had cameras out for about 2 weeks. I'll show you some of these bucks right here. Some of these were really good deer. I had one camera that was showing good bucks in the daytime almost every day. Well, the problem was that spot was really hard to get into. So first morning, November 1st, I decided to go hunt a tree that I found in scouting that I hadn't had a camera on. I didn't want to go tear into that spot first thing in the morning. I was going to hunt that morning and then move that evening to go try to find a better access route to that spot. So I'm sitting in the tree, November 1st, expecting to shoot a doe. That was my plan. I knew there was activity in this area from the sign I'd seen, fully expecting to get a shot at a doe. About 30 minutes after daylight, a small basket 8-pointer comes out. He eases by me, no issues there. Then about 30 minutes after that, I hear something behind me. I look behind me and I see a good buck coming my way. Here's a video of the buck that I let pass last year. Now, the reason I let this buck pass was I was getting pictures of other bucks that were just as good on my camera. And at first glance, I did think that this buck was pushing the limits of legality. I hunt in antler restricted counties, and to shoot a buck, a mature buck, it has to be over a 13-inch minimum inside spread. And Texas Parks and Wildlife uses the guidelines of when a deer's ears are at alert, if the antlers are outside of those ears, that's generally expected to be over 13. Well, this deer was right on that mark for me. In hindsight, after watching this video over and over again, I really think this was probably a legal buck, but I made the right decision by letting this deer pass. 30 minutes after this buck moves on, I hear a branch crack. I look up ahead of me and I see a giant coming towards me. It was immediate. I knew this was a big, big deer. There was no question. There was no need to look at it twice to see if it was legal. This was a monster. He was coming straight at me down the same trail that this other buck just left down. So I grabbed my bow. He was coming right at me. At about 25 or 30 yards, he made a cut from coming straight at me to my left, which is my weak side. I shoot left-handed. So I tried to get turned around. By the time I got turned around, this deer slipped me. At that point in time, I decided I was going to sit that tree all day long and see if he came back. Well, for a couple hours, it was pretty dead. Then, at about 2:30, I heard what sounded like somebody coming up behind me and setting up for an evening hunt. It sounded like they were putting up a ground blind or clearing out some ground to hunt or putting their equipment onto a tree. It was a lot of noise. I was actually getting ready to text my wife and say, hey, I think somebody's setting up like 40 yards behind me. Then the noise stopped, and I started hearing footsteps. So I said, you know what? Maybe I should get my bow and get turned around and see what this is. So I grabbed my bow. I got turned around on my saddle facing behind me. And then at about 15 yards from behind a tree, the same buck from that morning come out from behind the tree. I couldn't shoot him right there. He was behind a bush, behind a tree limb, but he was coming my way. So I got to full draw. He kept coming, kept coming. When he popped out into a visible shooting lane, he was at 6 yards. I laid my pin on the front shoulder and I released the arrow. Arrow hit, he took off. If I could go back to that day, I would have 100% waited and seen if that deer turned and gave me a more broadside shot. To speed this story up, I tracked that deer, called a buddy in. I got down and inspected the shot site. There was no blood. There was no hair. I watched him running off with my arrow in him. I know I hit him. Called a buddy. We searched and scoured the area for 3 hours looking for any sign of blood, looking for the arrow. Never found blood, never found hair, never found the arrow. We were able to track that deer's tracks and his path for about 150 yards. It had rained earlier in the week, and you could see the giant footprint that he was making. Never found that deer. I was so sick to myself. If you've never lost a really big buck, then you don't know what it feels like, what I'm trying to describe to you right now. Words can't describe it. There's just a pit in your stomach. I've never really had many encounters with big deer before. I've seen them walk through the woods at distance. I've caught glimpses of them occasionally. I've always fancied myself as a meat hunter. If it's brown, it's down. I'm shooting the first legal deer. Well, after that encounter with that buck, that's all I want now. As far as my goals for 2024, my goal is redemption. And what does redemption mean? To me, redemption is harvesting another mature buck. Something that sparks me. Something that ignites that fire in me like that buck did. I can't put a number on it. There's not a number of inches. There's not a number of points. It's got to be just the way it feels inside of you when that deer steps out. That's what redemption will be for me. Now, along the way, would I like to shoot a doe? Yeah, I'd love to have some meat in the freezer. But if I feel like it's in any way going to hinder my chances of harvesting the buck that I'm after this year, then I'm going to let him go. Redemption is my goal for 2024. If I'm unable to harvest a buck this year, then my seek for redemption, my hunt for redemption will continue for the rest of the time that I'm able to hunt in my life. I plan to put in a lot of effort this year to seek that redemption. I'm looking for hard to access spots. I'm looking for overlooked areas. I've got 2 properties I'm hunting this year. Property X and Property Y. Unfortunately, neither of those properties are where I was hunting last year when I shot that buck. However, both properties hold the quality of deer that I am looking for. On Hunt for Redemption, I'm public land only. I'm archery only. It's going to be a really fun season. If you guys want to follow along with me, come on. I hope you enjoy the ride. I know I'm going to.